But then we got 2 more voice actors introduced to the stage. Now this is when I lost it again, because I was not expecting this man to come on the stage Hello there, my fandom friends! Today I am going to be talking about the Anime Expo My Hero Academia 2024 panel. Now, if you're wondering why I've been a bit absent the past 2 weeks since I got back from AX, it's actually because I lost my voice and then got really sick for 2 weeks. I'm currently deaf in this ear, so I can't really hear myself as normally as I usually do. And so I am going to be editing this video as best I can, so I hope you understand. But anyway, I am going to be bringing you this video finally. I've been wanting to talk about this for the past 2 weeks, but I couldn't. Also, I lost my voice at AX from screaming so hard and crying so much during this panel because of how much I love these voice actors and the My Hero story, so I guess I did it to myself. But anyway, we're here now and we are going to break down this My Hero Academia panel in great detail. Now, before I get started, I wanted to quickly explain that there is no video and pictures allowed at panels at AX like this. The Japanese culture doesn't really support video and they just don't really like it. It's a cultural thing, and so you know, people just have to respect that, and so I can't really fall back on any pictures or video evidence of, you know, what actually happened at the panel. So I'm basically just grabbing from my brain, and I put together a doc of every little detail that I remember from this panel, and I will be breaking that down here. So I hope that's not boring for you, but again, I'm not going to be posting about things that the Japanese culture does not like. We want these people to feel comfortable coming to America, and so I do not feel comfortable recording and then posting their panels and their talk about their stories. So we're going to jump right into this. So this panel was held at 12 p.m. in the main panel room on July 6th of Anime Expo 2024, the My Hero Academia panel. I was in around the 5th-ish row with my boyfriend during this panel. I was cosplaying Tamaki, and we actually just stayed in this panel room the whole day because there was a Demon Slayer panel around 4 o'clock. So I actually quickly changed into my Moichiro cosplay between panels, and it was cool seeing different panels throughout the day, but we were so excited to get up close to the front. And so this panel started with the opening theme for season 7 of My Hero. And of course, as the characters popped up on the screen, the audience was going just like absolutely berserk over these characters. Bakugo, I think, won the most cheers for when he came on the screen. Like, I was like, whoa, my ears are like ringing. And then of course there's me, like, the soul screams for Shigaraki, my favorite character. And Deku, of course, he's my second favorite. Deku and Shigaraki, I love them so much. So the first voice actor that they announced was Daiki Yamashita, the voice of Deku. Now, if you don't know, my favorite Japanese voice actor is Koki Uchiyama. He plays Rui in Demon Slayer and Shigaraki in My Hero Academia, my favorite characters in both of those series. Now, Daiki, the voice of Deku, he also plays the voice of Yushiro in Demon Slayer. Yushiro is my second favorite character in Demon Slayer. Deku is my second favorite character in My Hero. And so these two voice actors just mean the absolute world to me. I saw Uchiyama-san last year at Anime Expo. I have a video talking about that if you wanted to go back and watch that. I will leave that in a link up here. But today I am going to be fangirling over Daiki. Going into this panel, I didn't really know much about him as a person, just, you know, his voice as these characters that I love. But I was crying throughout this panel because seeing this man just meant so much to me. He is such a little energetic ball of happiness and sunshine. He reminds me so much of Deku and like his emotional side, and he just seems like such a good person, and watching him on the stage just made me so happy. He has such a light and like airy and kind of like emotional just like beautiful voice, like his normal talking voice. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I hear Deku, oh my gosh, I hear Yusudo, and all these characters that I've also seen him play as, and I was just losing my mind the whole time. I definitely was crying like throughout the panel, and it just meant so much to me. So he opened up by doing one of his smash forms as Deku and introduced himself in English, which was just the coolest thing. I was crying for this man. The next voice actor that they introduced was actually one that I forgot was going to AX, but I was really excited and happy to see, was the voice of All Might Kenta Miyake. If I'm saying that correctly, I hope I am, I'm trying my best. But he came out, I was not expecting this at all, but he had like such a deep and rich, powerful, beautiful voice that just matched All Might so well. Like, the whole time I was just having chills over how just like he literally, it was like All Might was on the stage. Like, and I know obviously he's the voice actor. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like I was like moved heavily by this man. And of course, the very first thing he says after introducing himself is the iconic All Might line that everything is fine, I'm here, All Might has arrived. And so that was really cool and just literally just goosebumps when he said that. The moderator or host of this panel kind of talked about My Hero as a whole and how we're actually on the 10th anniversary here in 2024, and it's been going on, the anime, since 2014, and so that was really exciting. The man was explaining how over 100 million copies of My Hero have been sold since then across the world, which is awesome. Then they thanked the fans and we got into the real show. So talking about the voices of Deku and All Might, they basically just asked them what it's been like playing these two characters for so long. Daiki explained that it's been kind of like a blur for him how fast everything has been moving all these years, but he said all of the voice actors just keep running ahead and he doesn't want to be left behind, and so he kind of goes plus ultra himself just to keep up and to stay at his top role of Deku. Miyake-san was explaining how he's really loved watching Deku as a character grow so much and at times surpass him, and it's almost like he's watching Daiki's back as he goes further and further into Deku's character and his growth over time, and watching him grow as a person through playing Deku's role, which is just so sweet. We then moved into some of the bigger battle scenes of season 7 so far for My Hero. They had a big image on the screens behind them, which were basically like rectangles of all of the different battles we've seen this far. So I think there are around like 9 to 12-ish of those boxes, and so we were kind of talking about those in the panel. So their first big question was talking about Star and Stripes and kind of her growth up into this point in the story. I know she's dead. She kind of came and died pretty quick, but we're talking about her first. Miyake explained how he was actually really surprised that Star and Stripes was the girl that he saved as All Might, and how shocking that was when he was reading the script for his character. He talked about how, just like Deku, she never wanted to be left behind, and so she gave it her all. She kept running to get ahead of everyone else so that she wouldn't be left behind. Basically, he respects her as a hero and thinks she's amazing. Daiki, actually, this is when he got emotional for the first time, and he was like, I'm gonna cry, that's so cute. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's such like Deku, like I'm gonna cry. But he was talking about how he thinks that Deku and Star and Stripes are actually very similar, and how sometimes he wonders what a conversation would have been like between the two of them, and how their goals were kind of the same, basically watching All Might, you know, surpass everything, all these limits and everything, and watching his back and hoping to grow to that same level. This question was for Daiki, which was, how did he feel when he found out that Aoyama was a mole? Daiki explained that he actually prefers to play Deku as he's reading the script for the first time without reading the manga first, which I actually found really interesting and very surprising, because I feel like not a lot of Japanese voice actors do that. Of course, compared to Demon Slayer, the main character, Tanjiro, voice actor Natsuki Hanai, he knows that story inside out. And I totally respect both ways of thinking. I think they both have their pros and cons. And so it's really interesting seeing that Deku, like this huge character, doesn't even know what's to come for his character. And he wants that shock and raw emotion to come out as he's with that script, learning that story for the first time. And he was talking about how he got specific permission from the people he was working with to do that so that he would act it out better. He said that in that moment he was incredibly shocked, but he didn't think Deku would stall in that moment and let it become a hindrance to his ability and his power to like protect people. And so he kind of just plowed through it with those emotions as Deku, because he knew that Deku wouldn't kind of just give up in that moment. He said he kind of directed a lot of that anger and frustration, not so much at Aoyama and his actions, but his own character's, Deku's self, and kind of explained it as like, what could I have done better that would have made it so that Aoyama wouldn't have had to go that far to do all of these things that are bad. Like, what could Deku have done better? Which I thought was a really good way of portraying the character. Of course, that is like the most Deku thing I've ever heard. And lastly, he basically just explained that, you know, both of these characters, Deku and Aoyama, are just trying to get through life as heroes in their own way. And yes, Deku might be seen as like the one who did it better, obviously, and Aoyama's like this bad guy, but like that's all he knew. And so he's just trying to work with that because they're friends. This next question is when they used the big screen behind them depicting the different battles that we've seen this far in season 7. And so the kind of host of this was explaining kind of a little bit about the battles and then asked both of these voice actors what their favorite battle was. Daiki went up to the board. He was kind of like pointing his finger everywhere. He's like, and then he like ended up on the Dabi and Shoto box. And he was basically explaining that in their battle, what he really got out of it was both characters' determination to win in this battle. And he himself felt like a fan cheering on Shoto during this. And he said that that probably relates back to like us as an audience and how he felt the exact same way during that whole battle of passion and determination from both sides of those characters. Miyaki went up to the big screen. He kind of did the same like finger pointing thing, and then he actually had a tie between two battles. So he first talked about the fight of Endeavor and Hawks versus All for One, and then he also talked about Jiro's fight. And so for Endeavor especially, he was talking about how, you know, in this fight he gets so injured and beat up and we think that maybe he's passed on, but Hawks is like, no, he's still alive, and how shocked, you know, he was to find that out. And then of course everything with Jiro, through her ear injury, she's still able to push forward and battle on. I was thinking maybe Miyaki-san really likes the fights with like All for One, and he'll probably like what's to come as well. At this point, he was talking about like how all of these scenes were kakui, which is like the Japanese word for cool, like what we know in English. And so then that became a joke, and he was like, I can't stop saying this word, everything is just so cool. It was really cute. We then got the trailer for the new My Hero Academia movie, which comes out on August 2nd in Japan, a little bit later in America, but I will get to that a little bit later in the video, which I have some exciting news about. But then we got 2 more voice actors introduced to the stage. Now this is when I lost it again, because I was not expecting this man to come on the stage for this My Hero panel. Now I should have expected it because he's actually the main character in this new movie. None other than Mamoru Miyano, if I'm saying that correctly, the voice actor of Light Yagami, the voice actor of Death the Kid, the voice actor of Doma from Demon Slayer. big voice actor here, so many other voices. I personally love him as Light Yagami. Like, Death Note over here, Death Note over there. I'm a huge nerd for Death Note. I wasn't expecting to see this man on the stage at this time. I knew he was going to be at Anime Expo, but I thought I was going to see him in a different panel for some reason. But oh my gosh, I was going insane. Not really like cry-worthy, but just like, this is a big name on the stage, and he knows that he's a popular guy. He was like pumping up the audience. I'll get to that part. The other voice actor that they had there was the female main character that is going to be in the My Hero movie. And so her name is Meiru Nakume, if I'm saying that correctly. I hope I am. But she was very sweet, she was very quiet. She talked a lot about how this was kind of like her first time and experience doing a lot of things, so I think maybe she's a little bit inexperienced and like new to the voice acting world. I don't really recognize her name or know a ton about her, but she was very kind and sweet the whole time and had some good answers, which I'll share when I talk about her. But basically, they just introduced themselves, and Miyano-san was like, you guys can call me Mamo. And he was like saying Mamo, and then like the audience would say Mamo, and then like we would go back and forth, and it was just like this huge like thing between the audience and Mamo, and the host guy was like, I was not expecting any of this, and it was just really funny. And you could just tell that Mamo has a very strong stage performance to him. Obviously, he's been in so much, so like well-deserved, and he's been around for a while. So anyway, I am still blown away that I got to see this guy on stage. So the first question that they had for them was pretty basic, basically just, how does all of this excitement feel? Nakume started by saying that she was already having a lot of fun, and she was appreciating all of the passion and energy that was already in the room. She'd literally been on stage for like maybe like a minute by then, and she was already like, dang, Americans are crazy in a good way. Mamo, on the other hand, literally he just said, I love you in complete English, and like, oh my gosh, the girls in that room, the amount of high-pitched squeals and screaming and everything that could happen happened. Like, he knew all he had to say was, I love you, and the room would go insane, and it did. But he basically just said that his love was overflowing and he was enjoying himself, obviously. The host then basically just explained a brief kind of intro summary to what the movie is about, which I encourage you to kind of look into on your own time. I don't really want to accidentally spoil something or anything, but it sounds like it's going to be an awesome movie, and I'll talk more about what happens with the movie later on during the panel. Basically, after this, for most of the rest of the panel, they just went back and forth between the four voice actors and had very specific questions for them. Now, this was a bit different than the Demon Slayer panel that I actually talk about in an entirely different video. If you want to check that out, I'll leave the link up here. But in that panel, they actually would ask a question, and then like all the voice actors would just answer that same question. But the My Hero one was very much like focused per person. And so, of course, the very first question is for Daiki, and it was, how did he feel when he found out there was going to be another movie? Now, of course, like I said, this joke was said many times, but he opened up by saying that he was super happy to find out there was another one. And from there, he decided to also joke that all of the voice actors were super happy that they were having another movie. So more laughs from the audience because he was just being so adorable. He also kept using the word cute in like the English word cute instead of the Japanese word kawaii, and it was just like a really, like, it was cute because the audience picked up on it, and it's just like a word, like both those words we both know in like English and Japanese. It's like the universal thing, like to switch back and forth. He talked about how the movies do a really good job of explaining exactly where they take place within the timeline. And so yes, they're not really happening in the canon timeline of like when the show is taking place, but we can leave, have a lot of development, and then come back to the original story. And so he said something that's a bit different in this movie is that not only Deku, but the other heroes as well kind of all feel like heroes. So like to me that means that maybe there's going to be more involvement from Class A or more heroes or other characters and not solely just focusing on Deku maybe. The next two questions were for Nakume and Mamo. The first one being, how did they feel when they got the role? And so as you can imagine, Mamo said he was super happy. He said he was actually starting to get pretty jealous because a lot of his other voice acting friends were getting roles in My Hero or had been in My Hero for a long time, and he was wondering like, when am I gonna get a chance to be in such a big franchise? And so one day when he got the call for basically the leading character of this movie, he was like, all right, cool, now's my time to shine. And again, it made him super happy. And Nakume, being so sweet, she said that she's actually looked up to My Hero for a long part of her life, and it's always been a part of kind of one of her favorite animes. And so when she got the call that she was going to be a part of it as one of the main roles in this movie, she actually thought she was being pranked, and that it made her super happy. I'm not joking when I say that they were just going crazy about this super happy thing. The English word super happy just meant a lot to them, I guess, and it was funny, so I mean, it made me super happy as well. The next question that was asked to both of them is they were wondering if they had a favorite character from My Hero. Nakume said that her favorite was Mineta, which I was intrigued by. Mamo said his was Endeavor, which got a lot of laughs from the audience. And he actually talked about something kind of interesting to branch off of his favorite character, and he was saying that there's a lot of like adolescents and kids and like people below the age of 18 essentially that get a lot of development and growth throughout the story, but the adults get a lot of that extra time too. And it's just as much as the kids do, which makes the story super unique because it's usually just kind of one or the other in stories, but in My Hero it's both. And so that's kind of like the main reason why he likes Endeavor and kind of the whole everything that's surrounding him. And then he did like a really good voice impression of Endeavor saying "prominence burn," and he said that his job must be super tough. This next question is for Miyaki-san, and they were asking him how he felt about getting the role of Dark Might after acting out All Might all these years. And I'm not joking when I say this, but he said, super happy. And just the audience was going crazy. Like, it was really funny. Like, it's just one of those kind of like inside joke things where you just kind of had to be there in order to understand the laugh, but I hope it's funny still coming through me. He was explaining how after playing such a good character, especially one of like the main good characters in the story for so long, it kind of shocked him to be put in this role that was completely opposite of his character especially. It's not like he was just playing another random villain character, like he's literally playing like the dark version of All Might. But he explained how the main theme of My Hero is to go beyond plus ultra, and so he kind of kept telling that to himself, and he was like, okay, I've got to go beyond myself and plus ultra through this dark All Might. This next question was also for Miyaki-san, and they were wondering if there were any specifically memorable moments of playing the roles in the movie. And of course, no surprise here, Miyaki-san basically explained how it was just really cool for him to play All Might and Dark Might. And he was explaining how they actually filmed Dark Might, all of that role first, and then he went back and played all of the All Might roles that were from the movie. And so what ended up happening is after he was finished recording for Dark Might, when he went to record for All Might, the director said that there was a slight tinge of Dark Might still in him, and so he actually had to record almost all of his All Might lines because the director was like, we can't be having that, like you have to sound all good or all bad depending on the character. And so he said that was kind of like a funny thing that's just super memorable for him because it was hard for him to go back to his original like good self. And then this is actually when Daiki chipped in, and he said that one of his memorable moments was actually him and Miyake-san having a bento in the middle of the whole recording session. And so he said to basically paint the picture, it's a very big recording set, and it was basically Daiki and Miyake-san just in the middle of it enjoying this bento together. And if that's not the most like All Might Deku thing you've ever heard, like I don't know what is, because that is just the sweetest thing in the world. The audience was like, aww, and just going all cutesy on them. Like, obviously I was shedding a tear because like that is so adorable. I love when voice actors get so close, especially when there's so much like meaningfulness and bondness behind their characters. The next couple of questions were for Mamo, and in the movie he plays a character named Julio, and so they were wondering what are some things that he focused on when playing this character in the movie. And he basically was talking a lot about how his character is super mysterious, and so he didn't want to say a ton just because he didn't want to spoil that, of course, for like us as the audience. But he was explaining how Julio, his character, has a very specific goal throughout the movie, and he stayed very focused on basically growing and running toward that goal throughout the whole movie. So obviously I don't know what that goal is, but that's what he was kind of talking about. And he said something else that was kind of funny about his character is that he wears very like gentlemanly clothes, but he's kind of just rough around the edges, and the way he described him is basically a rat. The next question for Mamo about the movie was they were wondering if there was any memorable moments when recording for his character of Julio. Again, he didn't really have a ton to say about this because he didn't want to spoil anything, but something that he was talking about is that basically during like heightened scenes or like action scenes, I guess, like his voice will change, and so maybe that has something to do with like his character development. I'm not really sure, but he just said like to pay attention to that. So this was a little bit brief for him, but I understand he was probably trying not to spoil anything. And then we moved into asking the same questions to Nakume, which the first question is about her character as Anna in the My Hero movie, which is basically what are some things that she focused on when she was playing the character. She said that, again, she was quite nervous about the role, and it was kind of her first time playing out a lot of things, and so the director of the movie kind of helped her along by giving her a lot of background information about her character before she started voice acting for her character Anna. That way it gave her more of kind of like a background to base off of her character. She could, you know, understand her voice better and her growth throughout the story. The next question for her was again same, were there any memorable moments of playing her character during the movie? So this was really interesting and not really something I think of in the voice acting world, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Like, everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes and has to get through something. And what she was talking about is in all of her scenes with Julio, she would kind of put this inflection in her voice to make it sound like a question. So she would say Julio instead of just Julio. And so she had to redo a lot of her scenes with Julio because she was saying it kind of like as a question. And then this is where actually Mamo stepped in, and he was like, you know, she was doing a really good job. She was actually very cute about it. And he thought that the little mess ups here and there were like super cute. But there is one scene, I guess, still in the movie where I guess it made sense for her voice to influctuate with that kind of question tone. And so they were explaining to like look out for that. It's kind of like a little Easter egg that they kept in, that she said Julio as kind of like a question instead of like just saying his name, if that makes sense. And then it was funny because Miyake stepped in and he was like, yeah, me too. I made a lot of mistakes and had to redo. And it was just really funny, and it was nice because probably reinforced her that like, it's okay. Like, you know, everyone's new to voice acting, and it was just really cute all the way around. And then this next question was for all 4 voice actors regarding the movie, and they asked them basically what are some things that the audience should look out for when they're watching the movie? And so Daiki went first. He said the sound, the action, and the visual effects. And he said something interesting here. He said that obviously everything is very gorgeous and he loves My Hero because of the animation and how beautiful it is. But he said that this movie in particular is a lot more vibrantly colorful than other movies, which got the audience kind of picked up a bit. They were like, oh, like that's interesting, that's cool. And if I didn't mention this before, there was another big screen behind them that basically showed different rectangles of like different scenes from the movie. Obviously they can't really show a bunch, but it was like, you know, the main characters. And so when it was Miyake's turn, he actually paused and then he pointed to the screen behind to one of the rectangles, and he pointed to one of the scenes and he said that that scene in particular was super moving and emotional. And then he kept laughing because he kept saying that the scene was so cool and he kept using the word cool. And he was just like, that's just the only word I can say. Like, it's just all so cool. And then Daiki jumped in and he was like, and it's so cute. But like, he was saying it in English and it was just cute, okay? Like, I can't say much more. It was just cute. When it was Mamo's turn, he was talking about how My Hero is full of a bunch of like bonds of friendship and family, kind of master and apprentice type things, parent and child. But in this movie, it actually dives a little bit deeper into a romantic bond, which he didn't talk about, but he just said there's a romantic type bond in it. So I don't know if that maybe means the two main characters, so Julio and Anna, the two voice actors that we had on the stage, since they're the two main characters. I don't know how they're involved with each other, obviously, because we won't know until the movie comes out. But I thought that was interesting because that is something that My Hero doesn't have a ton of, is like romance. Nikumi basically explained how she was just on the edge of her seat the whole time, and the movie just generally made her happy because she was looking at so many characters that she knows from the original show, which she's familiar with and she just loves. So this next part of the panel was really, really cool. And I am one of just a couple thousand people who have seen this, but we, in that panel room, got to watch the first 15 minutes of the new movie. That's a long time. And this movie doesn't come out until October 11th in America. It comes out on August 2nd in Japan, obviously a lot sooner because it's their creation and for, you know, translation purposes and whatever for coming to America. But we got to watch the first 15 minutes. That's crazy long for like a preview. And they were super strict, no video, no pictures. I'm not gonna talk about it too much just because I don't want to like accidentally spoil something or talk about it when maybe people don't want to hear about it, just want to go into it completely blind. But what I will say is that it was awesome, and seeing Dark Might, that sure as heck was creepy, and Miyake's voice acting is great for it. He does a really good job in the short amount that I saw. And yes, Julius is a mysterious character. I don't even think he spoke the first 15 minutes of the film because I was waiting because I wanted to hear Mamo's voice. Yeah, definitely lots of action right off the bat and lots of familiar faces. Something that really stood out to me was there were lots of really in-depth, detailed quirks that we've never seen before that the whole audience was like, dang, like that's cool. Something also that was awesome during this whole thing is that the 4 voice actors actually got to come down to the audience and sit in the front row with the audience. And so like, I was like 4 rows behind that. They were literally like, probably like 20 feet away from me. And oh my gosh, like Mamo was just going crazy, like, you know, like turning around to the audience and like blowing kisses and just like, you know, getting all of the attention, and all the people in the front were going absolutely insane. But they were so close, and I never would have expected that to happen with just like these are, you know, people from like Japan, like these are big voice actors, and obviously like thank goodness nothing happened, and you know, hopefully no one was recording or taking pictures or anything disrespectful, but like it was awesome. Like, I wish I had something to document that because, oh my gosh, they were right there. They were so close, but I'm just so thankful that that big group of people and I got to be so close and to watch the first 15 minutes. We're the only people in the whole world, even before Japan sees it, we got to see that, and I just think that is so special. So I am urging you to see it in theaters when it comes out on October 11th. And we are almost done here. We are wrapping up the panel, and so after they showed the first 15 minutes, they asked the 4 voice actors what their initial thoughts were after watching it with all of us. And Daiki's response was that whenever there was a character that popped up on the screen, the audience just went insane, which was like, honestly, he was so right. Like, Deku came on the screen, everyone's screaming. Bakugo comes on the screen, everyone's screaming. A student from class A is on the screen, everyone's screaming. A new character, everyone's screaming. Mamo's character, everyone's like through the roof. So that was really funny. And to bounce off of that, Mamo basically just said, yeah, it was pretty clear that they all knew who the audience likes character-wise. Miyake said that it's not often that he sees like the audience of My Hero's excitement for characters in the storyline, and so he really enjoyed hearing our cheering from behind him as he got to watch it with all of us. And to close out that question, Nakumi basically just said she wished she could have watched the whole movie with the audience, and she just loves it so much. And then we, of course, got our picture with the voice actors at the end, with the voice actors on the stage, with the audience behind, just like we do for all the panels at AX. And Daiki had a really cute idea where he wanted to say "Go Beyond" in Japanese, and then the audience would say "Plus Ultra" in Japanese, which is like a very slight variation. And so we practiced this for like 5 minutes, I want to say. We were like practicing it. He wanted to like make sure that we just had it like perfect. They were having a bit of like mic issues and then like camera issues, so we were just like being so patient with them, and everyone was so happy. Like, no one cared, I don't think. It was just like really fun, and like Daiki was so excited to hear all of our voices like attempting the Japanese way of saying "Plus Ultra," and like it was just so fun. And I'll pop up the picture here on the screen so you can see and where I was sitting in, you know, correlation to the stage, and it was just so fun. I loved it. And then of course it was at this time that sadly we had to say our final goodbyes to this amazing My Hero crew and all the people that were able to put this panel together. All of them basically thanked America and the audience in particular that was at the panel just for all of their excitement and cheers and love for their story. And Daiki was so cute. He said that he could feel all of America's love for Deku and following along with the My Hero story. Mamo said that he wants to come back to LA next year, which obviously like erupted the audience again. Miyake was so sweet. He was explaining how they are just so blessed to have such an amazing audience and such an amazing fan base for My Hero, and that he thinks that My Hero is just going to continue giving as the years go on, as we continue to finish up this story in the near future. And then he said goodbye, of course, ending out the panel with his iconic All Might scene that he actually started the panel with. So it all came full circle. Leave it to All Might. But they were all just such a happy group, and I'm just so very thankful that I got to go to like my first official My Hero Academia panel. I actually got into My Hero Academia a little over a year ago, so I was behind and then caught up, and just absolutely love the story and getting caught up with the recent manga, and I'm excited to see the story end. I'm also nervous, and it was just such an amazing panel. And out of the 3 panels that I went to at AX this year, I want to say that this panel was actually my favorite one of the weekend. I think that had to do a lot with seeing Daiki and Mamo, just because those are 2 voice actors that I have been hoping to see, but never really getting my hopes up just because they're all the way in Japan. And so I'm just so thankful that I got to finally see these guys that I look up to so much from a number of different anime stories that I hold very close to my heart. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much to the My Hero author for creating this story, and all of the animators and voice actors that make it come to life, and of course Anime Expo for inviting all these people out here to America. I hope to see them all again. And if you have any questions or comments about my breakdown of this panel, I would love to answer them down in the comments. Feel free to also check out my video about the Demon Slayer panel, which I have posted, and I will see you next time. Bye!